in California. Welcome to another edition of Sisters with Ventures. I'm so delighted to bring you Amanda Schwartz Ramirez to the show. Amanda, say hello.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Leisha.
Hey, so me and Amanda go back. We used to work together, and she has an amazing career in many, many things that we're going to talk about today. But besides becoming friends at work and having amazing times on several entertaining projects,
Yes.
she also, in her private life, does many amazing things in ecosystem building. And so I'm so happy to have you on the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Thank you, Leisha. I'm excited to be here with you. So my background, we can get into whatever's helpful or interesting, but I started my career in the music industry
Oh,
and kind of cut my teeth on being the behind the scenes supporter of somebody else's dreams. This was something I'm just passionate about. My whole career has been the coach and advisor. And I found my way into tech coming out of business school about 15 years ago now. And it's been a bit of a wild ride since. And so happy to click into all of that.
what's the craziest thing about the music industry?
The craziest thing about the music industry is just the personalities, and it's not the musicians. It's everything around the musicians. I was on the live music side. I love concerts. It's frequent that I cry at every show I'm at. It doesn't matter if it's the Roots or like a country act. I typically get misty-eyed. So it was really all of the different players that kind of revolve around musicians and try to add value. And it's changed a lot since I've been in that space. But I was ready for something different after a few years of that.
Right. So tell me about how you became exposed to venture capital.
Yeah, it was really through angel investing. So when I got into tech, I think, an important part about my background is that I grew up in my dad's business. So entrepreneurship essentially was a part of my values growing up. Like I saw it as a kid. I was always there when I was like 6 years old, filing papers or answering phones. And it was, that's all I knew. You have a dream, you set a goal, you start a business, people help you along the way. And I learned from my dad all of the various people in his life that helped him along the way at these very pivotal points. And so when I got into tech, I was in a few struggling startups in Los Angeles that were going nowhere fast. And I learned a lot about what that looked like to be too early and to have the wrong team. Lots there. And then in 2011, I joined PayPal, and there was so much to do, so much to learn, so much to see. Right. But after I was there for 10 years. And so when you and I met, maybe I was halfway into that journey when you and I met. There was a whole, I moved around in the company a lot. I had a lot of roles at PayPal. And halfway through that, I felt this need to get closer to the entrepreneurial journey. And it felt like there's everything PayPal's doing, which is incredible, but what's happening in the market? What are the entrepreneurs doing and why? What does it matter to them? What are the dreams that are getting pursued by founders of different backgrounds that have expertise? It's being untapped. So that was my initial quest, was how do I help them?
Right.
And that was through angel investing. I mean, it was quite the journey to get there, though.
Did you one, you had to realize you're accredited and that you could angel invest.
That's right.
2, you had to figure out who to call or what group. How did you? Yeah. It's not easy.
No, and it is so intimidating. I started reaching out to anybody in my network that called themselves an angel investor online. So that was through, I'm not super active on Twitter, but I was I guess I have to be, because this is where everybody is. So I jumped there. A lot of LinkedIn outreach. And I mean, some people agreed to talk with me, and I'm still grateful to them to this day. It was mostly folks that men, they had nothing to do with we didn't have a ton in common in terms of our paths, and they had been VCs And I was like, can you help me?
You said, hey, I want to be an angel investor. Is that?
I said, yeah, how did you get started? And, what does it take to add value? And I knew I never approached it from the I want to make money standpoint, because I'm not really a finance person. I really wanted to be supportive of somebody else's dream and on the entrepreneurial journey. Like, that was really what drove me to it. Is like, I wanted to get closer to that in my nights and weekends
Yeah.
to learn more. And so I started to learn. I ended up getting Jason Calacanis's book, Angel, and I read that end to end. I listened to all of his pods, and then I just found my way onto AngelList and started like jumping into syndicates and reaching out to syndicate leads and reading deal memos. And I was very much on the outside. There was no invitation.
That's what I want to get to, right? There is usually, unless it's in your network already, right? How do you get in? So how do you get validated in these groups? Is it like when you start writing checks, or when you provide value? Like, what is that there? Because I feel like there's all kinds of unspoken operating mechanics in these groups.
There is. How do you source a deal and pass it on, even if you're not, if you don't have the capital to invest in it? That's a really tricky thing to do. How do you use your industry expertise without creating a conflict of interest? So there was this, like, I was still an employee at a large, really well-known corporation.
Right.
And I had all this, like, on paper, all this fintech experience, but I didn't know what to do with that, because I couldn't go out there and say, oh, I want a bunch of fintech deals. That wasn't appropriate for me as an employee of a fintech company to do that. And so I spent probably 2 years just trying to translate my experience that I developed into like value propositions that were real and tangible for founders. And then I spent even more time trying to like cultivate deal flow through VCs and founders directly. And that was almost like step 2 for me.
Then they call that a scout, right? There's a technical.
Yeah, I've never formalized that though. I don't even know what that arrangement looks like. For me, it's always been this like finding VCs that I like vibe with, and then I like spending time with, and then I respect, and then having like building really long-term relationships, and then just like informally sourcing for them. And then when they find something that's interesting, they will kind of informally pull me in. It's never been for any carry or anything. I don't even know how to formalize something like that. And I almost don't want to, because I never got to a place where I had a preference for one VC firm. Mm-hmm. It was always like, I like her, that VC.
Right. Yeah. I think, I admire, and I think we're in the same boat. Like, it's a labor of love. Like, and I know some people do this with compensation, but we don't. No. It's just like really connecting people to the ecosystem and utilizing your network, right?
That's right.
So I know you gave me the call about Young King after so let's talk about that a little bit, because that's exciting.
I love them. Yeah, they're amazing. Cora is incredible. She's a force. She and I went to high school together.
What?
So that's how like these things happen. Those are the best deals, where it feels like just total serendipity.
Yeah.
And you stumble on somebody that you're like, oh yeah, you're amazing. What are you up to? And so Cora and I didn't speak for 15. I went back and looked through our threads. It was like, hey, I haven't talked to you in 16 years. How are you doing? I mean, and she's moved on and built this beautiful life, like on the East Coast. I'm here on the West Coast. Yeah. So, but I was at the All Raise Summit, and there was this gift bag that we received, and I was there again just to make friends. Like, who are like the female VCs that I should be friends with? This is literally my only source of deal flow right now. So I show up to things like that, and in the gift bag, there was something from Young King Hair Care. And I had registered that in my memory previously, that's Cora. And I remember seeing that she had built this company, and I was just so proud of her. And I was like, that's so amazing that it's like, that is the entrepreneurial journey that I get so excited about. Like, see a problem that no one's solving, like have this unique insight into like what is the right solution for that, and then actually be able to execute on that. Like, that's really rare and really beautiful. And so I reached out to just congratulate her, and she was fundraising at the time. And so that's like the timing and luck of it all. And obviously lots of luck in that story. But I also knew it was top of mind that what you were doing with your syndicate and your focus on moms and your focus on finding founders that needed to connect to like their unique market and their opportunity. And so it started to like, these things start to click sometimes. And I was so excited to connect you.
Yes. So we end up doing a good raise for Young King that we're very proud to be investors in. So that worked, you know?
It did.
I love it. Why do you think impact is important? Social impact, supporting marginalized founders.
Yeah, because I mean, I go back to my dad's story. It's really important to have like networks of support. Like, there were many times in his entrepreneurial journey that he kind of like looked around and needed to get like a little bit of help over here or a partnership over there. And without that, it just wouldn't have worked. And so I'm always looking for opportunities to like create that for other people. And I don't know, like in my journey, where I would be if I didn't have somebody who basically took a chance on me. And I feel like there were many parts in my story that, you know, I came from something that like on paper wasn't incredibly exciting or the norm or the pattern that makes sense for the path that I took. And somebody was like, oh yeah, I can see a little bit of potential there. And so I feel like strongly that that's just a part of my personal mission to do that for others. And I try whenever I can to. So that's the way I look at impact. I feel like it's really easy to just stay within the patterns that you have and just kind of rinse and repeat. And that leads to a very boring world.
Right.
So I feel like we need to shape another one very aggressively. So here we are.
Right. So I was very sad when you told me you were leaving PayPal, because I was leaving my BFA, my best friend at work. And you left for bigger and better things. Can you share a little bit about what you got into after that journey?
So I spent some time in the crypto space, and I spent some years at PayPal just having crypto be this like side project that it was, you know, just my extracurricular for many years. And then in the last like 6 months, it became my full-time job when PayPal leaned into the crypto space and stood up a whole business unit. And so I was really excited to be a part of that. And I was also reaching the kind of decade mark. So it really made sense to start thinking about what was next. And for me, it was just going all in on crypto all day. So I joined a venture-backed startup that was in scaling mode, which is like a perfect use for my skills, which is strategy and ops.
Okay.
Did that for like 9 months, worked for like 90 hours a week for 9 months. My family missed me.
That startup grind is no joke.
It's no joke. It's also a beautiful thing when the fit is right. I got to a place where I was actually pregnant with my daughter, who is now almost a year, and it was not the time for me. So I tested this thesis that can I just do the job that I was doing at PayPal, but with these startups across multiple companies. And I started advising and have basically over the last 18 months built a small advisory practice where I work with lots of crypto companies, but also just other fintechs and other emerging tech founders in scaling, strategy, operations, all the things that go along with that. And that's my full-time thing.
So is crypto dead?
No way.
Or winter? What's
Never.
So
Crypto is really exciting right now. If you're following the space, PayPal just made an enormous announcement this week with their stablecoin efforts.
Woo, woo, woo,
Uh,
woo.
Congratulations to PayPal. It's
Congratulations to
massive.
the crypto team, BCDC. Woo, woo.
That's right. It's
So what
amazing.
is that going to do?
Crypto.
What do you think about that release? Are we going to change the game?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You know, there are lots of parts of crypto that are no longer as active, which is great. The speculative, like casino tokening, that's all died down, and lots of teams that were just building really interesting stuff, which is mostly infrastructure related, are still on their journeys and building. Now, with PayPal coming in with a stable coin and all of the might of the PayPal network, you now have the opportunity to almost live out the promise of the earliest days of Bitcoin, which we were talking about 12 years ago, which is sending money seamlessly across borders, or micropayments, or paying gig workers globally. Or there's so many use cases that are very payment specific that are now doable with this combination of PayPal plus a stable coin. And I couldn't be more excited about crypto right now. There's so many interesting use cases that really matter and that are actually going to become real in the next like 12 to 18 months would be my guess. And then there's lots of things that are just no longer relevant. And so we'll see what happens in this space. Like, I'm still full 2 feet in. It's I think it's a good time to be focused on
You're still
crypto.
optimistic.
I am.
What about AI? What about the AI tech?
Yeah. I'm also very excited about AI. Honestly, I'm spending probably 40% of my time just learning about AI things and doing like some spot advisory things on like helping teams get up to speed on Gen AI and what it means for them. I feel like you have to know it. You have to get in there, start learning, start using the technology, and follow it closely enough that you can just stay smart on what it means for today. I don't think everyone needs like this bulletproof strategy for what it means, but just some hands-on experience is super helpful because it's coming faster than crypto.
Yeah.
It's coming faster than a lot of tech in this space.
I think AI has been, especially in the form of Chat GPT, has been just way more digestible than crypto. Crypto is a complicated, complex, multi-layered thing. And I think in the application, I used to work at a machine learning startup. It's not that it hasn't been around, but in its application, it's practical, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like wildfire. So I'm excited about that too. And I'm eager to learn as much as I can about the space. How do you learn? What kind of tools do you use? I'm
just constantly like doing weird ambient things all day while my kids scream in my face. So like podcasts. It's, mostly I try to go on walks and listen to podcasts because you have to leave and come back. But I think this is where angel investing is super helpful. So if you set your course to want to learn a space and you're really dedicated to supporting founders in a particular area, you can learn just by doing that, by listening to pitches, by applying your skill set within the context of those pitches and following through and helping by writing small checks. Like, this is one of the best ways to learn a new space. And it may not translate into like your next big thing. I think it's easy to make a bet on AI right now, but it's hard to make a bet on a specific AI company. Yeah. So, come in with the idea of learning, and I think that you end up getting pretty far.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. I appreciate that. So our time always goes by really fast here. So I always like to close out the show with, what would you tell little Amanda? Little girl Amanda.
Stay loud. My parents never told me to like tone it down. Yeah. I was always very bossy, and like I was always pretty loud, and I would say stay loud. Like, I have a daughter now, and I'm excited to cultivate the bossiness in her and the confidence to go out there and just learn whatever she's interested in. And I know you're doing the same. So
Of course.
I think that's really what it is in this world. Just stay bold.
Exactly. Bold and loud. I think those are two very important descriptors.
Yeah.
Oh, anything else? How can people find out about you, your advisory practice? They want to learn more. What's the best way?
Sure. So gardenlabs.xyz is my advisory practice. I also publish a newsletter semi-regularly at thinkinginquarters.com. And that's for anyone interested in strategy and operations and is on the COO track. So feel free to follow me there. If you'd like to get in touch, I'm pretty accessible on LinkedIn as a platform. So go ahead and reach out.
Perfect. Well, that's a wrap. It's been a lovely conversation with Amanda Schwartz Ramirez, who is my former co-worker. She's my fellow investor. I guess she's also my venture scout. I mean,
of course, and forever friend.
I feel like forever hip hopper, lover of 90s hip hop, all of that.
Always.
Such a fun person. I'm so glad to know you, and thank you for all the work that you're doing, and thank you for being a face and representation in crypto and all the other things. We appreciate you.
Thank you for everything you're doing. And it's always fun. Thanks again.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Sisters with Ventures. If so, download and subscribe to the Alive Podcast Network, available on both iOS and Android, and select Sisters with Ventures to support this podcast each and every week.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to the show. Please subscribe, tell a friend, check us out, let the world know. You can find out more information about this podcast at LeishaBell.com. And remember, be an angel, invest.